And Guruji is using this analogy of gods and goddesses, knowing that they are ultimately just a way to personify the characteristics of the divine. That one supreme divine. Akhe barme, akhe ind, akhe gopi, ta govind. So the gopis are the milkmaids, the followers of Gobind. Gobind is another word for Krishna. But here Guruji says, speak the cow-herding maids, the gopis, and the Krishnas, the plural Krishnas. So the Gurus have often talked about these mythological characters, these gods, these demigods. But the Gurus have always known their stories to be metaphors for that divine God. Even in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, we have several shabads in praise of Krishna. In particular, Bhagat Namdev Ji's Bani. But even Bhagat Namdev Ji has always understood that there isn't a single God that is being chosen who is to be seen superior to other gods. Guruji praises the Bani that is singing the songs of Krishna, knowing that it is the songs of the divine. So Krishna is seen as a manifestation of the divine. The divine comes down and plays the role of Krishna. The divine comes down and plays the role of Ram. So singing the praises of them within Gurbani is not to see them as separate individual beings, but just manifestations of that divine. A particular example of this shabad from Namdev Ji is singing all the praises of Krishna, but the main line says, Tan tan o Ram ben baje, madhur madhur dhun anhad gaje. So great is the Ram who plays the flute. And then he talks about Tan tan banakand bindrabana, the forest in which Jai Khele Siri Narayana, where Krishna played as a child. That forest is great. The blanket that he wore is great. His mother is great. All of his friends are great. But the clue is in the main line which says, Tan tan o Rama ben baje. Now, specifically the word Ram has been used. Krishna is the one who is seen as the one who plays the flute. Historically, Ram is not seen as a character who plays the flute. So there's a clue there that Namdev Ji is not talking about Krishna, the character, but the story that is being played out by the divine, Ram, who's playing the song on his flute of Krishna. Tan tan o Ram ben baje. He's not saying Tan tan Krishna who plays the flute. He says, I can see that behind Krishna is Ram, the ultimate, the supreme Ram, the supreme being. So within Gurbani, wherever we see praise of these demigods, we might call them, it is not praise of those characters, but to see the divine in those characters. When you can see the very thing that you're worshipping as nothing more than a manifestation of that oneness, then it makes us understand that if they are the manifestation of the oneness, then so are we. We are also not separate beings. So when we lose ourselves into praising these individual gods, then we've fallen back into duality. Then we think that Ram is separate from Krishna, Brahma is separate from Shiva. Then we fall back into duality and we think that they are separate from that supreme. So we must understand how to view these great stories, these great characters, and we must learn from their stories. Their stories have been written to teach mankind what is the way to be supreme, what is the way to live the righteous way, the right way, what is the way to actually live a life of dharam. We can read these stories and understand them. The conversation that Krishna has with Arjun in the great Mahabharat, the great battle, that entire conversation is recorded in a granth called the Gita. That granth alone is so valuable and priceless. There is so much that we can learn from the Gita. But as long as we are aware all the time and conscious that we're not to use this as a way to start personifying Krishna as something individual worth praising. So all the great saints have always understood the story of Krishna, the story of Ram. Ram is said to be the supreme perfect human. So we have to understand, why are these perfect human beings? Because the way that they lived their lives, the stories that are being told about them are examples for us. Ultimately, we have to live those lives as well. Why do we tell so many stories of the Gurus? Not just to show how great they were, but because they are the benchmark. They are the template that we have to model ourselves on. The way that they lived, the characteristics that they had. So the Guru has always maintained that there's no need to worship these temporary beings, but we have to focus on the permanent truth that is in them and the permanent truth that is in us all.